Hello and welcome to Connect the World. I'm Lynda Kinkade. We begin with the world reacting as US President Donald Trump pursues his America First agenda on trade and jobs. Critics say he's left the door open for China to pursue its own brand of trade by pulling the US out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. US allies like Australia are considering whether there's a way to make TPP minus America work. The US president says he's bringing factory jobs back to America. That was his message as he met with Detroit's big three automakers in the last hour. Mr. Trump talked about the new rules of the road.
We're going to make the process much more simple for the auto companies and for everybody else that wants to do business in the United States. I think you're going to find us to be from very inhospitable to extremely hospitable. I think we'll go down as one of the most friendly countries, and right now it's not. I mean, I have friends that want to build in the United States. They go many, many years, and then they can't get their environmental permit over something that nobody ever heard of before. And it's absolutely crazy. And I am, to a large extent, an environmentalist. I believe in it. But it's out of control.
Well, let's get more now on Mr. Trump's jobs and trade agenda. Sara Murray joins us from the White House and Matt Rivers is live with us from Beijing. Great to have you both with us. Firstly to Sara, the billionaire businessman turned president is really working on getting jobs back on American soil.
Right, that's certainly his hope. We have seen, I think, him meet with business executives yesterday as well as automakers today. And this was, of course, a theme of his presidential campaign, a notion that he was going to bring manufacturing back. He was going to bring job creation back to the U.S. He's threatened tariffs not only on automakers, but on other companies that move abroad and are creating their products abroad. And I think we're seeing one of his moves today. We're expecting him to take executive action on both the Keystone Pipeline as well as the Dakota Pipeline, which obviously is an opportunity to create more energy resources here in the U.S. and from Donald Trump's point of view to create more jobs. But no doubt both of those moves will be extremely controversial and have been protested by environmentalists.
And of course, Trump, as I mentioned, has moved to withdraw the US from the Trans-Pacific deal. What's the next move on that matter? How will he assure other trading partners that the US is ready for business?
Well, it was interesting to hear the administration take this on yesterday because they said while the U.S. was formally withdrawing from TPP, and, you know, by the way, people had pretty much thought it was dead already, that Congress made it pretty clear they weren't taking it up for a vote at the end of last year. Sean Spicer, who's President Trump's press secretary, said that they still want to pursue bilateral trade agreements, and they're still hoping to do some deals with other countries in that region. I think the big question is whether there will still be an opportunity for the U.S. to be involved in those markets, or whether this creates essentially a vacuum for China to fill in these Pacific Rim countries.
That's exactly what I want to talk about with Matt. Matt, the Trump administration withdrawing from this TPP deal does create a bit of a vacuum. China, no doubt, pretty happy and apparently ramping up on a deal that excludes the U.S.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, Chinese officials privately, according to a lot of the experts that we spoke to today, are probably pretty happy about the fact that their path is just that much easier in terms of exerting influence in and around this part of the world. Now, it's also worth mentioning that many of the countries that are involved in TPP already have a very, very big trading relationship with China. In many of those individual cases on a country-by-country basis, China is their #1 trading partner already. But everyone will tell you business could always be better. And so China now, with the U.S. seeming to pull back a little bit from this part of the world, China now putting forward a different trade agreement called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. 16 countries in total combined that represent 30% of the world's GDP, a little bit smaller than TPP, but it involves many of the countries that would have been involved in that original framework. And one of those 16 countries do not include the United States. So China definitely sees an opportunity here in terms of being able to further exert its influence more than it already has.
Absolutely, no doubt some concerns there for American business. I just want to go to another matter, back to Sara and Donald Trump. He, of course, does like conspiracy theories, and he is again claiming voter fraud cost him millions of additional votes. Is there any truth to that claim?
There's absolutely no evidence that supports this claim, but I think what it shows you is it really gets to the heart of one of President Trump's deep insecurities, this notion that somehow he is not the true president, that this isn't a real victory, that he is somehow an illegitimate president. He is personally very concerned, and we saw in what was a pretty exceptional press briefing yesterday, his White House press secretary saying that Donald Trump is personally offended by the notion that people might not take him seriously, by the notion that people are trying to undermine him. And I think one of the things that does personally bother him is the fact that he lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton.
All right, Sara Murray, we'll have to leave it there. It looks like the battery's gone on that light there. But thanks to Sara Murray and Matt Rivers for that report. Well, Donald Trump